He didn't know his wife came from a secret billionaire family. Her husband left his 9 months pregnant wife to go hungry for his rich boss. What she did next made him feel sorry forever. He didn't just leave her, he walked out of their small apartment with a bag in his hand. Victoria's perfume was still on his shirt. He left his 9 months pregnant wife standing alone next to an almost empty fridge, while he moved into his rich boss's house, trying to get higher status that would never help him. That same night, Maya Chen's body could not take it anymore. She fell down on her kitchen floor from hunger, weakness, and being so tired. She had been living on tap water and making every last can of food last longer to keep the baby inside her safe, while the man she loved was laughing in restaurants, drinking expensive wine, and letting another woman put her hand on his arm. Her husband thought she had no power. He thought she had stopped talking to her faraway parents for good, that she had no way to get their money, no one she could call, no safety left. He thought she would wait quietly while he built his new life. What he never imagined was this: the wife he left to go hungry came from a secret billionaire family. They had been watching over her from far away, a family with private investigators, lawyers, and enough power to destroy every lie he built with one court hearing. And when Maya opened her eyes in that private hospital room with her mother at her bedside, her father looking at evidence and photos of David with Victoria on a screen, something inside her changed forever. Dear viewers, thank you for being here. If you're watching without subscribing, it's like letting Maya's voice fade in the same silence she suffered alone. When you subscribe, you stand with every woman left behind, every mother abandoned, and every quiet person planning the comeback they deserve. Please subscribe now and tell me in the comments where you're watching from.
Maya Chen stood very still as a sharp pain went through her big belly. She had to hold the edge of the kitchen counter so she wouldn't fall. Her breath stopped. Her face went pale. Her other hand went to protect the 9-month-old life inside her. For a moment, the tiny apartment became blurry. The pain hit her first, raw, sudden, not wanted, like her body was warning her that time was running out. When the pain went away, she let out a shaking breath and said quietly, "Just not yet, not alone." Maya was 31 years old. She spoke softly and was patient, the kind of woman who said sorry when she wasn't wrong, who smiled to stop others from worrying. Everything about her, her gentle eyes, her careful steps, her warm presence, felt like she had been made by life to love quietly. But today, her quietness carried exhaustion. She sat down slowly in the small living room. The space was glowing with soft afternoon light. On the couch beside her was a basket of tiny baby clothes she had been folding one by one. She lifted a pair of pale yellow baby shoes. Her fingers touched the fabric with a softness that belonged to women who love deeply and without stopping. She hummed to keep her nerves steady, but the sound shook at the edges. Maya had once lived in a world where nothing shook. Before she became Maya Chen, she had been Maya Laurent, the only daughter of a powerful, private, rich family whose last name alone opened doors. She grew up in big estates with gates, staff who never forgot to bow, parents who rarely forgot their meetings but often forgot her birthdays. Her inheritance, shares in several companies, investments, trust funds, had been planned for her since birth. But when she turned 22, she had done something no one expected. She legally changed her last name, moved out of the Laurent estate, and signed papers that put her trust funds under strict rules. She couldn't touch them without going back to that world. Her parents had begged her to at least keep an emergency card, an open phone line, some form of help. Maya said no. She didn't want a life where love felt scheduled and conversations felt fake. She wanted something real, something honest. And David Chen appeared exactly when she needed softness.
He was 28 when they met, handsome in a boyish way, confident but not too proud, had big dreams but was sweet, or so she believed. He worked as a junior assistant for a rich businessman. He made Maya laugh with easy charm. He called her Bright Eyes and told her she made the world look softer. He never pushed about her past. When she said she was away from strict parents and didn't want to talk about them, he didn't ask more. He only knew her as Maya Chen, a woman who wanted a simple life. She ran from the wealth she once knew with open arms and a full heart, choosing David in a small rented apartment over the cold luxury of her childhood. She traded marble floors for cheap wooden ones, staff for silence, formal dinners for home-cooked meals she made with love. Yes, she had walked away from everything that could have made life easy, but she believed she had gained something far better, a home built on love. Now, folding baby clothes alone in a dark apartment, she wondered if she had been wrong. Her eyes moved across the room until they landed on a framed picture on the small bookshelf. It showed her standing between two elegant older people, her parents. The tension in her shoulders got tighter. She reached out and touched the frame like she was greeting a stranger, then quickly put it face down again. Her fingertips touched the drawer below the shelf. Inside was a single envelope from her mother, the last time her family tried to reach her 2 years ago, sent by an old friend who still knew where she lived. On the front, in beautiful handwriting, it read, "Open when you're ready." Inside, Maya knew, was not money, but contact details, a private number, an offer of help if she ever changed her mind. Maya had never been ready. She stood up slowly and went back to the basket of clothes. The soft fabrics brought her comfort. She traced each seam, imagining tiny hands, tiny feet, tiny breaths. The baby was the only thing that kept her steady, gave her purpose, made the loneliness easier to handle. She tried not to think about David, but the truth pressed against her chest. She was 9 months pregnant, she was alone, and her husband hadn't come home in 2 days. He had left saying it was for work, the same excuse that had become his shield, his weapon, his favorite escape. His boss needed more hours, more loyalty, more time, and lately David had started pleasing that boss far more than caring for his own wife. Maya stopped folding. Her hands shook again, not from pain this time, but from the slow, painful understanding that he might not matter to her the way she once believed. A sudden pain hit her stomach again. She winced and grabbed the arm of the couch. "Please not yet," she said quietly, breath shallow. "He's not home." The pain went away, but fear stayed, heavy and cold. At that moment, a soft buzzing came from the kitchen table. David's company phone was vibrating. He had forgotten it 2 nights ago. His personal phone, the one he used to text her, working late, was with him. But this one, the office phone, had been left behind, face down beside a glass of water. Maya stared at it. A cold feeling went down her spine. Something told her that whatever was on that phone would hurt far more than the pains in her belly. And as she reached for it slowly, the pain inside her belly came back again. Another warning, another countdown. She didn't know it yet, but the messages and missed calls on that forgotten phone were tied to the long nights he'd been spending in rooms she had never seen, with people who never even knew she existed. A quiet shadow passed through her thoughts, whispering that David's world was about to show itself, piece by terrible piece.
David Chane slammed the heavy office door behind him so hard the glass shook. His breath came in tight bursts. Anger flashed across his face. Moments earlier, his boss, Mr. Richard Sterling, had publicly embarrassed another employee for not meeting expectations. David had watched the whole thing from the back of the room, sweat on his palms, fear wrapping around his ribs like a trap. And now that fear moved inside him, pushing him into a state he barely knew. This was how things had been for months now. Long hours, sharp words, and the constant threat of being the next one crushed. Mr. Sterling was a man in his mid-50s with sharp eyes, expensive taste, and a talent for breaking those who disappointed him. He owned 3 companies, 4 luxury cars, and acted like nothing in the world could touch him. The office worshipped him. David worshipped him too, though he would never dare say it out loud. He wanted Sterling's approval the way some men wanted oxygen. Inside the private lounge, a place only select employees were allowed, David stood still, shoulders tight, his heart pounded with a mix of excitement and fear. The room smelled of leather and expensive cologne. Gold decorations shined from every corner. It was wealth wrapped in luxury, the kind David had never tasted at any point in his life. Mr. Sterling sat on a velvet sofa, a glass of dark liquor in hand, speaking with practiced confidence. Beside him sat Victoria Moore, a striking woman in her late 20s, long dark hair, red lips, and a smile that could cut. She worked as Sterling's consultant, though everyone in the building understood her true role, his mistress and silent helper of influence. She leaned against Sterling with casual ownership, her hand resting lightly on his knee. Victoria noticed David the moment he entered. Her eyes traveled from his wrinkled shirt to his nervous posture. A hint of amusement crossed her face. Sterling smirked. "Come in, David. You look like you just watched someone get crushed. Sit." David obeyed quickly. Sterling raised his glass and said, "This is what success looks like, son. Comfort, options, power." He pointed to the room around him, and then to Victoria. "And the right company." Victoria crossed one leg over the other, very slow. "Mr. Sterling was just telling me about the new position opening soon, a position for someone loyal." David's breath caught. A promotion, a real one, the kind that came with respect and money, the kind that could make him feel like a man who mattered, not just a man trying hard to pay rent and baby expenses. Sterling continued, voice steady and cutting. "Your wife is what, 9 months along now?" David nodded stiffly. Victoria laughed softly. "So much responsibility. That must be exhausting." David didn't respond, but the seed planted itself in his thoughts, small, poisonous, growing. Sterling leaned forward, voice steady and cutting. "A man's value is judged by how high he can climb. If you want real success, David, you must learn how to choose what matters most." David swallowed, throat tight. He saw in quick flashes memories of his early marriage. Him kissing Maya's forehead every morning before work, her smiling as she packed his lunch. Late-night dreams about a simple home, a safe life, a family built from love. But the warmth of those memories was drowned out by the glitter around him now. Luxury, approval, status, everything he felt he deserved but never had. Victoria moved closer, her lips near his ear. "You don't have to stay ordinary." A chill ran down David's spine. Outside the lounge door, unseen by all of them, Mr. Sterling's assistant slipped a folder into the office mailbox. Formal documents for a special assignment, a new role, higher pay, and an invitation to move into Sterling's guest wing so he could be close to work. Documents that would soon push David even deeper into his change.
Maya woke up suddenly to the sound of a plate breaking. Her heart pounded, her breath sharp. For one terrible moment, she thought something bad had happened to the baby. But no, the pain inside her chest wasn't physical, it was emotional. The plate had slipped from her shaking hands and crashed onto the floor. On the table beside her sat a full dinner, her effort, her love, her hope, now cold, untouched, and waiting for a man who wasn't coming home. Her phone buzzed again. She already knew what it would say. David on her screen. "Working late, don't wait up." The words cut her deeper every time. She read them again as if they might change, as if this time he might add, "I miss you. I love you. I'm coming home soon." But the message stayed short, cold, empty, like a door shutting in her heart. Maya sat down in the chair, one hand on her belly, one hand covering her face. The silence in the apartment pressed on her like a weight. Even the clock ticked louder, reminding her of every minute she spent alone. She whispered to herself, "You said I was enough." Her voice broke. For a moment, she let the tears come, quiet, tired tears that soaked into her palms. She didn't cry loudly. She never did. Maya had learned as a child that loud emotions had no place in a mansion filled with people who cared about appearances more than feelings. Her mind went back to a memory, a flashback painted in soft gold and cold edges. She saw herself as a young girl walking through endless hallways of her parents' grand estate. The walls were covered with expensive art. Crystal lights hung from the ceilings, and her footsteps echoed because there was no one around to answer them. She remembered trying to show her mother a drawing she had made. Her mother had smiled politely, nodded, and said, "Beautiful, darling," without looking up from her phone. Her father had patted her head as if she were a guest child visiting, then returned to his business calls. Love had been present in the house, but it had been distant, present only in words, not actions. Maya didn't want that life. She didn't want emptiness wrapped in gold. She wanted a hand to hold, a voice to comfort her, a partner who saw her as more than decoration. So she chose David. She chose simple walls, simple meals, simple dreams. She chose a man who once held her as if she were the only thing in the world that mattered. But now those memories felt like stories from another lifetime. David came home less, smiled less, touched her less. He had become someone she barely knew, someone distracted, ambitious, hungry for something she could not name. She lifted her phone again, staring at the message. Working late. The lie hurt, not because he said it, but because he didn't even try to hide how often he used it anymore. She placed a hand on her belly and whispered gently, "It's okay. Mommy's here. I'll keep us safe." Her stomach tightened again, not a full pain, but enough to remind her that she couldn't afford to break down. She needed rest, she needed strength, and she needed... The thought vanished. The doorbell rang. Maya froze. Hope flickered in her eyes for a foolish second. David? Did he surprise her? Did he come home after all? She pushed herself up, one hand gripping the table for support. She walked slowly to the door, heart shaking with a mix of fear and hope. She opened it. It wasn't David. It was Mrs. Rodriguez, the kind, elderly neighbor from across the hall. She held 2 bags of groceries in her hands, her warm, concerned eyes looking at Maya instantly. "Sweetheart, you didn't answer your phone. I called twice. I heard a plate break. I was worried. You need food. You need help." Maya forced a tiny smile. Shame and thanks mixed painfully in her chest. "I'm okay," Maya whispered automatically. Mrs. Rodriguez shook her head. "No, you're not. I know what an empty fridge sounds like when someone keeps opening it and closing it." Maya's eyes dropped to the grocery bags. Pasta, bread, fruit, soup, basic things, essential things, things her husband should have brought home. "I can pay you back when David's next paycheck comes in," Maya said quietly. Mrs. Rodriguez's face softened. "You'll pay me back by staying alive to raise that baby. That's enough." Maya stepped aside to let the neighbor in, her heart tightening, not from the baby, not from pain, but from the understanding that strangers cared more for her than the man she had married. As Mrs. Rodriguez put the groceries down and filled a few shelves, she spoke gently. "If you ever need to call anyone, use my phone, okay? Or the emergency number on your fridge. Don't sit here alone." Maya nodded, but her eyes flipped away from the fridge magnets and landed for a brief second on the drawer where her mother's sealed envelope lay hidden. She quickly looked away. As Mrs. Rodriguez finished, Maya felt another sharp pain in her belly. Not a contraction, something else, something warning her that David's distance was not an accident, but a choice. And far away, in an office she never saw, the choices David made on nights like this were pulling her further from her than ever before. David's heart slammed against his chest the moment the bar door opened. He hadn't expected this noise, this heat, this rush of luxury wrapped in dim lights and polished marble. The private bar belonged to Mr. Sterling, his boss, the man who ruled his career like a king. Tonight, Sterling had called him personally. That alone was enough to make David feel his pulse in his throat. But the real shock struck the moment his eyes landed on her. Victoria Moore, the woman every employee whispered about, the one who could make Sterling's anger soften with just a look, the one who closed deals by simply walking into a room. She sat beside Sterling at the long bar, her posture confident, her smile slow and dangerous. Victoria's presence hit David like a wave, sharp, bold, and impossible to ignore. "David," Sterling said, lifting his glass. "Good. Sit." David obeyed immediately, sliding onto the stool opposite Victoria. His palms were already sweating. Victoria leaned in before he even settled. "Rough week?" she asked, her voice smooth as velvet. Her perfume, subtle, floral, expensive, wrapped around him. Her hand reached for his, guiding it gently onto the bar. Her fingers stayed there. Every part of the moment was wrong, and every part of it pulled him in. Sterling watched with the look of a man who enjoyed testing people. "You're ambitious, David. That's why I like you." Victoria took a slow sip of her drink, eyes fixed on David over the rim of her glass. "Ambition," she said softly, "needs the right company." His jaw tightened. He thought of Maya, sweet, patient Maya, waiting at home with dinner going cold. He thought of their cramped apartment, the stress in her eyes, the baby coming. He should have thought of love, but instead he thought of pressure. He thought of the promotion Sterling had hinted at in the lounge. He thought of the folder with new position papers that he had taken home and signed without reading every page, just grateful for the raise. Victoria tapped a nail on the bar. "You seem nervous." David cleared his throat. "It's just a lot. New responsibilities, Mr. Sterling's expectations." Sterling chuckled. "Responsibilities can lift you up or drown you. Depends on what you hold on to." The words cut deeper than they should have. David took a shaky breath. "I only want to prove myself, for my family too." Victoria turned fully toward him. Her posture changed, more intimate, more on purpose. "Then stop acting like someone afraid of wanting more." He stared at her, confused. "What do you mean?" She leaned closer, her lips near his ear. "Men with families move slower. Men with attachments hesitate." Attachments, the word echoed. In one swift moment, everything inside David twisted. His pride, his fear, his insecurity. He felt small and average and behind in life. Victoria's voice kept feeding that part of him. "You deserve to be around people who can lift you up," she whispered. Sterling smirked, watching the scene with satisfaction. He knew Victoria's purpose. She was his favorite because she could read people and reach their weak points with exact precision. She turned David's hand gently, lifting it palm up, looking at it as if reading something written on his skin. Then her eyes dropped straight to his wedding ring. "Ah," she said softly, her tone changing. "So that's why you look so torn." David pulled his hand back a little, but she held it just long enough to make the message clear. She wasn't scared by it. Sterling swirled his drink. Some women lift men up. Others drag them down, keep them small, dependent, ordinary. The words landed like a stone inside David's chest. He heard them. He took them in. He let them settle into his thoughts, where they took root like poison. Victoria's fingers brushed the ring again. "You should take that off," she said quietly, voice low and dangerous. "If you want to sit with us, if Sterling wants to trust you, if you want to live in his world, you can't keep acting like you still live in hers." His hand shook. Very slowly, he slid the ring off his finger and put it in his pocket. He told himself it was just for tonight, that it didn't mean anything, that Maya would never know. And far away, in a small apartment filled with cold food and lonely silence, Maya shifted in her sleep, one hand resting on her belly. She didn't know why, but she woke up with a faint ache under her ribs, a warning she couldn't explain, a warning that something inside her husband had just changed in a way she might not recognize anymore. The door slammed open with such force that Maya jumped, nearly dropping the glass of water she was holding. Her breath caught. Her heart stumbled. For one brief, foolish moment, she thought David had come home worried about her. But the look on his face crushed that hope instantly. David stood in the doorway, shoulders stiff, eyes cold, jaw locked, like he had already decided something before he walked in. His movements were sharp, too sharp, like a man who had reached a decision he didn't want questioned. He didn't ask if she was okay. He didn't look at her belly. He didn't greet her at all. He simply walked past her, grabbed his suitcase from under the bed, and opened it. Maya blinked. "David, what's wrong? Why are you packing?" He didn't answer right away. He folded his shirts with mechanical precision, avoiding eye contact. The tension in the room got thicker until her throat tightened with dread. Finally, he said, "I'm moving in with Mr. Sterling." Maya stared at him, stunned. Moving in? Why? What happened? He zipped the suitcase halfway and stood straight, his face cold and distant. "Work. The new position. Sterling wants me close to the house for a while. There's a guest room. It's part of the job." Her voice broke. "But I'm about to give birth. You haven't been home. He cut her off with a sharp breath. "Maya, please don't make this harder. This is temporary. Sterling said if I commit fully now, it'll pay off later, for both of us." "Temporary," he said, so casually, as if leaving his 9-month pregnant wife alone was nothing more than a short business trip. Maya stepped closer, hand shaking against her belly. "David, I need you. The baby could come any day. You promised you'd be here. We planned this together. You said, 'You'll be fine. Mrs. Rodriguez checks on you. You're strong. You've handled everything so far.'" Her chest tightened as if someone squeezed the air out of her. That wasn't a compliment. It was an excuse. He wasn't staying because he didn't want to. David grabbed his wallet from the dresser, pulling out the debit card linked to his new salary account, the one he had quietly shifted most of our money into. Maya reached out by instinct. "Wait, why are you taking that? I need groceries, the doctor's appointment." "It's better if I manage the money," he snapped. "I can't have you spending without thinking right now. I'll transfer something next week if I can." Her hand fell, her heart dropping with it. She had always been careful with money. She had stretched every paycheck. She had let her own small savings disappear first when she stopped working. Yet now, he acted like she was some kind of burden. He shoved the card into his pocket and put the suitcase over his shoulder. "If I impress Mr. Sterling, we'll finally be somebody. Don't you want that?" She stared at him, horrified. "I never wanted someone important. I wanted you." He didn't flinch. He didn't soften. Instead, he walked past her toward the door. That's when she smelled it. Faint but clear, a scent that wasn't hers. Perfume. Floral, sweet. The same perfume on Victoria Moore's skin the night he had come home late with drinks with the team, and she'd seen the name Victoria flash on his phone before he turned it away. Maya froze, the world spinning slightly. Victoria. That woman had been too close, too confident, too connected to Mr. Sterling, and now too present on his husband's clothes. Maya's voice shook. "David, why do you smell like perfume?" He stiffened for a split second, but he recovered quickly. Victoria hugged everyone when Sterling gave the team speech. He lied smoothly. "You're imagining things. You're stressed." She wasn't, but she was too heartbroken, too overwhelmed, too pregnant to fight the way she wanted to. She pressed her hand to her head to stop it from spinning. David placed his hand on the doorknob. "You'll be fine," he repeated. "There's still some food from Mrs. Rodriguez. I'll send money when I can. Just trust me on this, okay? Don't call Sterling. Don't make this look messy." Her voice rose in panic. "David, don't go. Please don't leave me alone like this. I feel strange. I think—" But he was already stepping out, already pulling away as if nothing she said could reach him. Her throat tightened painfully. She stumbled after him, gripping the doorframe. "David, I think the baby is coming soon." He didn't turn. He didn't pause. He pretended not to hear. The door closed with a final hollow sound that echoed through the apartment like a goodbye she never wanted. Maya stood frozen, her hands still reaching toward the empty hallway. Her heart felt like it cracked in two, and the apartment suddenly felt colder, darker, smaller. Her breath caught as another tightening pain rolled through her stomach. Not quite a contraction, not yet, but close, too close. And as she leaned against the wall, trying to steady herself, a quiet understanding whispered through her mind, one she didn't want to accept. The real danger wasn't the baby coming early, it was what David was about to do next. Far away from home, in a house where Victoria's perfume and Sterling's promises would wrap around him, while she fought to survive alone.
The hunger hit her like a punch. Maya held the edge of the kitchen counter as her knees nearly gave out. A wave of dizziness crashed over her so hard that spots filled her vision. Her breath shook, her heart beat weakly, and a cold sweat broke across her forehead. She had felt tired before, but this was different. This felt like her body was giving up. She forced herself upright, one hand on her belly, the other holding the counter. The fridge door hung open beside her, the inside light glowing over shelves that were completely empty. Not a drop of milk, not a slice of bread, not even leftovers. She had stretched what little food she had for days. First her own savings, then the groceries Mrs. Rodriguez brought, then the last can of soup she'd mixed with water to make it last for 2 days. She had eaten smaller and smaller amounts so the baby could have enough. But tonight, there was nothing left. David hadn't sent the money he promised. The card he took was still with him. Her message asking, "Did the transfer go through?" sat on seen, unanswered. Her stomach twisted painfully. To stop the sick feeling, she went to the sink and filled a glass with tap water. The cold liquid soothed her throat but did nothing for the heaviness in her body. She drank another glass and another. Finally, she sat down in a chair, holding her belly as if her arms alone could protect the life inside her. Her mind went back unwillingly to the past. She saw herself standing in the grand dining hall of her childhood home, marble floors and crystal lights sparkling around her. There had always been more food than anyone could eat, lines of dishes for business dinners and charity events, yet she had eaten most of her meals alone, taking her plate to a quiet corner because her parents were always hosting or in meetings.
She was 22 the day she told them she was leaving the Laurent family estate, leaving the private drivers, the security guards, the family wealth, leaving a life most people dreamed of. Her parents had stared at her as if she'd said she was disappearing off the earth. "Maya," her mother had said, voice sharp with fear, "that boy is not ready for the burden of a powerful family." Her father had added, "He'll break under pressure. He already looks like he's struggling with his own." But Maya had been in love. She had seen David's smiles, his warmth, his humble dreams, and she believed he loved her for who she truly was, not the name she carried. So she walked away from money, from power, from every safety net. She even insisted her trust be locked, refusing an emergency card because she wanted to stand on her own. She thought love would be enough. But tonight, sitting alone with a pounding headache and an empty fridge, she felt the weight of that decision crushing her from inside out. A sharp pain hit her stomach. She gasped and bent forward, gripping the table. "Please," she whispered, tears forming. "Not tonight. Not like this." The apartment felt colder, quieter, smaller. Maya tried to stand, but her legs shook under her. She made it 2 steps before her vision blurred again. Her hand slipped from the table. The dizziness returned like a dark wave. Her phone buzzed on the counter, her own phone, the one she had refused to change so her parents wouldn't easily reach her. Now it lay just out of reach. She took one more step, then her knees gave out. Her body hit the floor with a dull sound. Her head struck the tile. The phone slipped from the counter, crashing beside her. The screen cracked instantly, lines spreading like a spiderweb across the glass. Maya blinked, barely awake. Her breathing slowed. Her hand reached weakly toward the phone, touching it with the tips of her fingers before her arm fell limp beside her. The phone buzzed again. The cracked screen flickered, glitching. The damaged screen auto-accepted the incoming call. A name appeared faintly through the broken glass. "Mother." A soft rustling sound came from the phone speaker. Then a woman's voice, elegant, concerned, and unmistakably familiar, filled the quiet apartment. "Maya? Maya, are you there?" Maya couldn't respond. She was too weak, fading in and out. Her mother's voice grew sharper. "Maya, I can hear breathing. Something is wrong." More rustling, a distant command, voices in the background, calmer, trained, not surprised by crisis. "Get the security team on this call. Trace the location now." Maya's eyes fluttered closed. Her last thought was a mix of fear and relief. Someone knew. Someone had heard. Someone was coming. And far away, in a control room that had quietly watched her number for years without interfering, Linda Laurent was already using the power Maya had tried to leave behind. Maya awoke with a gasp. Her eyes flew open, heart racing, breath sharp and wild. For a second, she didn't know where she was. The ceiling above her was unfamiliar, white, high, decorated with soft lights. The sheets under her felt too smooth, too clean, too expensive to belong to any place she could afford. Then she heard it. "Maya!" A woman's voice, soft, shaking, afraid. Maya turned her head slowly. Her mother, Linda Laurent, elegant, poised, always perfectly put together, sat at her side. But today, her mother didn't look put together at all. Her eyes were wet, her hair slightly messy, her face raw with fear and guilt. Maya's father, Robert Laurent, a tall man with a commanding presence and calm authority. His clothes were perfect, but his face was tight with worry in a way she had never seen growing up. Maya stared at them, confusion swirling through her mind. "Mom? Dad?" Her mother reached forward, taking Maya's cold hand in her warm grip. "Oh, sweetheart, finally you're awake." Maya tried to sit up, but her body ached everywhere. Her mother pressed gently on her shoulder. "Don't push yourself. You're safe. You're in a private hospital room. The baby is still okay. You collapsed from not eating enough and being so tired. Private room, perfect sheets, silent machines, security outside the door. This was Laurent money, money she had refused for years. Maya blinked through the fog in her mind. "How did you find me?" Her father answered, voice steady but soft. "Your phone answered by accident. We heard you collapse. Our security team traced the call and sent medics right away. You've been here since last night." Maya swallowed. "I didn't want to worry you." Her mother gave a choked laugh, brushing tears from her cheek. "You could never bother us, but you scared us, Maya. You scared us so much." The weight of her parents' presence began to feel softer as Maya took everything in. She looked around the room. Flowers, medical staff on standby, her personal nurse outside the door. These people had been waiting for her. Her father pulled a chair closer. "We respected your choice to build your own life," he said. "You asked us to stop calling. You changed your name. We tried not to get in the way, but we kept a quiet safety net, just enough to find you if something ever went very wrong." Maya froze. "You watched me?" she whispered. "Only from far away. No cameras, no spies in your apartment, just your phone number, your city, and a team told to stay back unless there was an emergency." Maya's chest tightened. All those years she thought she was completely alone. She wasn't, not completely. But another thought slipped into her mind like a cold shadow. "David, what about—" Maya's voice cracked before she could finish. Her mother's face changed instantly. The softness vanished, replaced with a cold, sharp fury. "We know." Her father reached into his coat pocket and placed a tablet on Maya's lap. "You deserve to see what he has been doing." Maya hesitated. Her hands shook as she tapped the screen. The first photo appeared. Her stomach dropped. Dated at a restaurant. Victoria Moore on her lap, her arm over his, laughing, relaxed, comfortable. As if he belonged there, as if he hadn't left Maya, as if he wasn't married, as if he didn't have a baby coming any day. Maya's vision blurred. She blinked hard, but the images stayed. More photos came. Him at Sterling's private club. Him leaning close to Victoria. Him leaving with her in a luxury car. Some images were old, taken weeks ago. Others were just days before he walked out with his suitcase. "Once we got the call from your phone," her father said quietly, "our investigator to pull every piece of data he already had and to dig deeper. We had looked into David lightly when you first married him, just for your safety, but we never found anything we could use. Now we have more than enough." Her mother's hand tightened on her arm. "He left you going hungry while he pretended to be a single man." Maya lowered the tablet slowly, her heart heavy. Her father's voice dropped into a tone she remembered from years of business talks. Calm, deadly, final. "He will face consequences. He will understand who he chose to look down on." Maya felt a tremor in her chest, not fear, something else, something waking up. Her mother leaned in close, her voice steady but furious. "We'll handle him, but first, let's get you justice." Maya closed her eyes for a moment, letting the words sink deep into her bones. Justice. After everything she had endured, after being left in her most weak moment. Slowly, she breathed out. When she opened her eyes again, something had changed inside her. Her father tapped the tablet again. "There's more you need to see." Maya looked down. Another file was opening. Messages, receipts, location logs, bank transfers. Evidence. Evidence that would shake her world, and David's. And far beyond the hospital walls, in boardrooms and offices where Richard Sterling once felt untouchable, the name Laurent was about to force open doors he thought would never turn against him. The conference room door burst open. making Maya flinch even from her hospital bed. 3 men in dark suits, carrying thick folders and tablets, entered with a level of urgency she had only ever seen in emergency rooms. Her father followed behind them, his face sharp, no longer the worried parent from before, but the powerful man the world feared. Robert Laurent had turned on his legal team, and when the Laurents moved, the world usually shook. "Everyone, start," he said. The men spread documents across the table near the foot of Maya's bed. Screens lit up, files opened, evidence spilled out like a silent storm. Maya's heart raced. She felt the energy fill the room like electricity. One man stepped closer and introduced himself. "Mrs. Chen, I'm Daniel Park, head investigator for Laurent Legal." His tone was respectful but firm. "We're going to walk you through everything we've found so far. You can stop us any time." Daniel placed the first stack of papers in front of her. Bank statements, money taken out she never approved, transfers to restaurants she never visited, charges made on nights David said he was working late. Maya blinked slowly, taking in each detail. The numbers blurred for a moment, then got clear. Her father whispered, "Take your time, but know that we are here now. You're not facing this alone anymore." The tension eased slightly inside her. For a moment, Maya let herself breathe, but only for a moment. Daniel slid over a tablet. "Next, we have digital evidence. We also got data from the company phone your husband left at the apartment," he added. Its messages and call logs confirmed his late-night meetings with Sterling's people and his pattern of ignoring you while he was out. The screen showed footage from the security cameras in her apartment building's hallway. Footage the Laurent team had legally gotten from the building management. Maya watched in silence as David slipped in and out at odd hours, sometimes alone, sometimes clearly drunk, sometimes coming back in clothes that didn't match the time he said he left. Her stomach twisted. Her mother placed a comforting hand on her shoulder. "He was living a double life, sweetheart, and he wasn't even careful." Maya swallowed hard. "I didn't know. I didn't want to think." Daniel shook his head. "You weren't supposed to know. That's how lying works." One of the other investigators stepped forward. "Mrs. Chen, there's more. Your husband also took a loan without your permission. He faked your digital signature using your full name and copied handwriting." Maya felt the air leave her lungs. "He faked my name?" The man nodded seriously. "Yes, we have copies of the application, plus proof from the bank. The money went into an account he opened recently under just his name." Her father's jaw clenched. Corporate wrongdoing, abuse of power, fraud, all tied to Sterling's circle. Daniel tapped another file. "Your father's company specializes in exposing corporate criminals. What David did is illegal, but what Sterling did is worse. We found text messages between them." Maya stared at the growing mountain of evidence. It felt surreal, like she was watching a movie about someone else's life. She lifted her hand, fingers shaking, and whispered, "Don't destroy him. Let him destroy himself." The room went silent. Her father met her eyes, the eyes of the daughter he had once struggled to understand, and nodded with deep respect. "Then we will do it your way. Quiet, precise, controlled." Maya looked at her mother, who squeezed her hand gently. "We'll follow your lead." The tension softened as the room shifted into reflection. Maya's mind went back to the earliest days with David, the man who had once held her during storms, who had whispered promises about a simple, loving future. She had been blind to the cracks forming in him, blind to the insecurity that grew every time he looked at men with more power, more money, more life than he thought he had. She remembered how he used to trace circles on her hand before falling asleep, how he had told her he wanted to be her safe place, but instead she had become the stepping stone he stood on to climb towards someone else's world. Maya breathed out slowly. We'll gather everything, every document, every message, every lie. Daniel nodded. We already are. He tapped his folder, and we found something today that changes everything. Maya looked up, confused. What do you mean? He opened a file filled with scanned pages. Legal documents with familiar handwriting. David signed contracts under Sterling's pressure, contracts that put him in direct violation of multiple laws. Sterling used him as the front person for certain funds. If those funds are looked into, and they will be, David's name is on everything. Maya's eyes widened slightly. He didn't read the fine print. The investigator continued. Sterling tricked him, used him, and now we can use this in court and publicly. Sterling's empire will crack from the inside. Maya's heart pounded. Her father crossed his arms slowly, voice deep. Sterling thought he could control your husband, but he never imagined David would lead us straight to him. Daniel hesitated for a beat, then turned another page. There's one more document we found. Faked, hidden, dangerous. Maya's breath caught. Dangerous how? Daniel slid the final page toward her. It was a spousal consent form, her name printed neatly on the line, her signature faked beneath it. The form tried to list David as co-owner to any future inheritance that might come from family trusts, even though her trust had been locked for years. He doesn't understand how your trust is set up, Daniel said quietly. He clearly suspected there might be some inheritance or family money you were hiding from him, but he had no idea of its real size or conditions. This form is legally useless, but it proves intent. He was willing to use your identity to reach whatever he thought you had. Maya felt the cold wave travel through her body. Whatever they were about to show the world would change not just David's life, but Sterling's as well. And long after she left this hospital, what happened in the courtroom could follow David for the rest of his days. Weeks later, the courtroom felt like it might explode. Voices clashed in the air, reporters talking, chairs sliding, watchers whispering like they were seeing the climax of a drama come to life. The tension was so sharp it hurt. Security guards lined the walls, cameras flashed. Once the press learned that the Laurent family was backing a case against businessman Richard Sterling and an ex-employee, the room became a storm. Every eye was fixed on one man, David Chen. His shirt clung to him with sweat. His breathing was fast and uneven. His hands shook so badly that he struggled to keep them still on the defense table. For weeks he had been riding high, living with his boss, chasing status, pretending to be powerful. Now, under the harsh lights of the courtroom, he looked small, lost, exposed. The judge banged the gavel. Court is now in session. David flinched. Across the room, Maya entered through the side door, calm, composed, elegant in a simple dress. Her belly was smaller now. She had given birth days earlier under her family's protection. Her mother pushed the stroller behind her, their newborn son sleeping peacefully. A wave of whispers spread. She looks so strong. Is that her baby? He left her while she was pregnant, right? The Laurents are here. This is serious. Maya took her seat without looking at David. Her face was steady, calm. It wasn't anger that filled her presence. It was dignity. Quiet, unbroken strength. And that terrified David more than rage ever could. The judge banged the gavel. Today we are hearing the request for divorce, custody arrangements, and presenting early evidence related to alleged financial wrongdoing and identity fraud. We will review evidence submitted by the Laurent legal team. Daniel Park, the lead investigator, stepped forward, calm, precise, deadly. He clicked the first slide, hospital records. The courtroom gasped. The screen showed medical notes in bold. Patient severely malnourished, signs of dehydration, pregnancy at risk, emergency help required. Maya kept her eyes forward. Her mother squeezed her shoulder gently. David's face turned pale. Next slide, financial statements. The documents clearly showed that David emptied joint accounts, took money out without permission, and used money meant for groceries to wine and dine his boss in Victoria. The judge frowned. "Mr. Chen, do you deny any of this?" David swallowed hard. I was under pressure. I thought I could fix it later. I didn't realize." But his voice broke under the weight of his own choices. More evidence appeared. Security footage from the apartment building hallway. David entering at 2 a.m., clothes messy, receipts for luxury meals, hotel records booked under business travel. Screenshots of messages between David and Victoria, flirty, bold, shameless. David squeezed his eyes shut. "It wasn't what it looks like. I was just—" The judge cut him off. "Save it for your lawyer." Daniel clicked again. Loan documents appeared. A form showing a loan taken in Maya's name, approved with a faked digital signature. "And this," Daniel said calmly, "is the loan Mrs. Chen never agreed to. Her signature has been confirmed as faked." Whispers rippled through the courtroom. Lastly, he put up the spousal consent form. This document tried to list Mr. Chen as co-owner to an inheritance he incorrectly believed Mrs. Chen still controlled. Again, the signature is faked, legally worthless, but revealing. The judge's face hardened. "Mr. Chen, your actions show a pattern of deception and financial abuse towards your wife." But the worst was still to come. The judge nodded to the bailiff. "Bring in Mr. Sterling." David's head jerked up. His boss, Richard Sterling, entered the courtroom with 2 officers. His face was sour, irritated, but he kept his composure. He'd been subpoenaed after Laurent investigators found financial crimes linking him to shell accounts and illegal transfers. Sterling took the stand. "Mr. Sterling," Daniel began, "did you pressure David Chen to distance himself from his pregnant wife?" Sterling shifted, jaw tight. "I advised him to focus on his career." "Did you encourage him to leave his home to live closer to you?" A pause. Sterling's eyes flicked to David, cold, emotionless. David stared back with a mix of desperation and betrayal. "Yes," Sterling said finally. "He wanted advancement. I told him he couldn't rise with distractions." Gasps echoed. Maya closed her eyes briefly, steadying her breath. Her father leaned closer. "This is the truth coming to light, Maya. Let it happen." Sterling continued. "He told me he was willing to sacrifice anything, even his marriage." David's head snapped toward him. "What? You said—" Sterling ignored him completely. The judge slammed the gavel. "Order." Daniel stepped back. "Your Honor, we rest our case for today." The courtroom fell into thick silence. David trembled in his seat, his life falling apart piece by piece. The mistress he chased wasn't here. Her lawyer had kept her far away. His boss had thrown him under the bus. The world he wanted to join had spit him out without hesitation. Meanwhile, Maya sat with calm grace, her breathing slow, her posture steady. She looked like the very image of strength, of a woman who had risen above betrayal with dignity instead of rage. The judge turned toward her. His voice softened. "Mrs. Chen," he said, "before I finalize the end of this marriage, grant you full custody, and issue recommendations for further criminal proceedings, do you wish to say anything?" Energy rippled through the room. David's eyes widened. He needed her. He needed her to defend him, to say something that would save him, to soften the verdict. Maya stood slowly. She turned to face him. Her eyes met his, a quiet storm,
a depth he had never bothered to understand. Her lips parted as if she would speak, but she said nothing. Silence. A silence heavier than any accusation. A silence that changed everything. The judge watched her, waiting. And for the first time, David realized heartbreak didn't always scream. Sometimes it looked like peace. Sometimes it looked like goodbye. Maya breathed in slowly. In the courtroom, leaned forward as if the world had stopped to hear her next breath.
David burst out of the courthouse doors as if his lungs were collapsing. "Maya! Maya, wait, please!" His voice cracked with panic, desperation, a grief he had never prepared for. People in the courthouse entrance turned to stare. Some whispered, others shook their heads. Cameras flashed, catching every broken step he took as he stumbled toward the woman he once promised to protect. Maya stood at the bottom of the courthouse steps, calm as morning light. She held her newborn son against her chest, his small head tucked under her chin. Her mother stood beside her, one hand on the stroller, her father behind her like a silent wall of support. The judge had just granted Maya full custody and put strict conditions on any possible future contact David might have with the child. Conditions based on therapy, paying back money, and proven change. A restraining order protected her for now. Maya didn't turn when David shouted again. "You were supposed to wait for me," he cried, stumbling down the steps. "I was doing this for us." Maya stopped walking. Slowly, she turned around. The baby slept peacefully in her arms. Her eyes, calm, clear, and unshakable, held no softness for David anymore. Only truth. "No," she said gently. "You did it for you." David froze, tears pooling. "Maya, I made mistakes, but I can fix this. I'll change. I'll get help. "You already made your choice," she said softly. "And now you get to keep everything you chose." Her words hit him harder than the judge's rulings, harder than Sterling's betrayal, harder than losing his job, his reputation, and his freedom to move as he pleased. David took 2 steps closer before Robert Lawrence stepped forward, his presence alone stopping David in place. "You will not approach my daughter," he said calmly, power humming beneath every word. David's breath shook. "Please, I just need to hold my son, just once." Linda stepped closer, her eyes colder than winter. "You lost that right long before today. The court made its decision based on your actions. You don't get to erase what you did by crying on the steps." David broke. The weight of it all hit him at once. His legs trembled. He fell to his knees on the courthouse steps. Maya watched him quietly. Not with hate, not with anger, just truth. "You didn't lose us today," she said gently. "You lost us the moment you walked out and left me to go hungry while carrying your child." David covered his face with his hands as sobs tore out of him. The photographers nearby captured the moment. A man ruined not by enemies, but by his own choices. Maya breathed in slowly, shifted her newborn gently, and turned away. Her mother reached for her arm. "Come home, sweetheart." Maya nodded. For the first time since she left the Lawrence estate years ago, the word home didn't feel like a cage. It felt like peace. It felt like safety. It felt like beginning again. A sleek black car pulled up to the curb, doors opened by uniformed drivers who bowed slightly out of respect. David's head snapped up when he heard the door open. "No, Maya, please." His voice was barely a whisper now. "Don't leave me. Don't take him away." Maya paused at the open car door.
She looked back one last time. "You left yourself," she said quietly. "All I'm doing now is finally walking away." She stepped into the car. Her parents followed, her mother carrying the diaper bag, her father giving David one last look that made his blood run cold. As the door closed gently behind Maya, Linda leaned closer to her daughter, her voice soft but sharp. "That man never knew who our daughter really was." Maya looked out the window, calm and steady. "He never cared to know," she whispered. The driver closed the final door. The car pulled away from the courthouse, leaving David on his knees, tears staining the concrete, watching the life he destroyed disappear through tinted glass. He would remember this day forever, not as the day he was punished, but as the day he finally understood the price of choosing ambition over love. The car glided down the street, carrying Maya into a new life, stronger, wiser, and finally free. The baby stirred against her chest, letting out a tiny sound. Maya smiled softly. A new chapter had begun.
The morning sun poured through the tall windows of the Laurent estate. Maya stood in the nursery, watching her son, Ethan, playing with colorful blocks on a soft rug. His tiny hands grabbed each block with determination. His laughter filled the room like music. She smiled, a real smile, one that reached her eyes for the first time in months. Her mother entered quietly, carrying a tray with tea. "He's getting so big," Linda said softly, setting the tray down. Maya nodded. "He has your eyes." Linda touched her daughter's shoulder gently. "He has your strength." Maya turned to look at her mother. Over the past 6 months, their relationship had healed in ways she never thought possible. The distance she had once felt as a child was being replaced by genuine connection, real conversations, real love. "Mom," Maya said quietly, "thank you for everything, for finding me, for not giving up on me." Linda's eyes filled with tears. "We never stopped loving you, sweetheart. We just didn't know how to show it the way you needed. But we're learning now." They stood together in comfortable silence, watching Ethan play. Maya's father appeared at the door. "Maya, there's someone here to see you. Your lawyer." Maya straightened. "Is it about the case?" Robert nodded. The final judgments came through. The final verdict. In the Laurent estate's private study, Daniel Park sat across from Maya with a thick folder. Her parents stood nearby, supportive but letting her lead. "Mrs. Chen, or should I say, Miss Laurent, the divorce is final. You have full custody. David has been ordered to pay child support, though given his current financial situation, collection will be difficult." Maya nodded slowly. She had expected this. "And the criminal charges?" Daniel opened the folder. The morning sun poured through the tall windows of the Laurent estate. Maya stood in the nursery, watching her son, Ethan, playing with colorful blocks on a soft rug. His tiny hands grabbed each block with determination. His laughter filled the room like music. She smiled, a real smile, one that reached her eyes for the first time in months. Her mother entered quietly, carrying a tray with tea. "He's getting so big," Linda said softly, setting the tray down. Maya nodded. "He has your eyes." Linda touched her daughter's shoulder gently. "He has your strength." Maya turned to look at her mother. Over the past 6 months, their relationship had healed in ways she never thought possible. The distance she had once felt as a child was being replaced by genuine connection, real conversations, real love. "Mom," Maya said quietly, "thank you for everything, for finding me, for not giving up on me." Linda's eyes filled with tears. "We never stopped loving you, sweetheart. We just didn't know how to show it the way you needed, but we're learning now." They stood together in comfortable silence, watching Ethan play. Maya's father appeared at the door. "Maya, there's someone here to see you. Your lawyer." Maya straightened. "Is it about the case?" Robert nodded. The final judgments came through. The final verdict. In the Laurent estate's private study, Daniel Park sat across from Maya with a thick folder. Her parents stood nearby, supportive but letting her lead. "Mrs. Chen, or should I say, Miss Laurent, the divorce is final. You have full custody. David has been ordered to pay child support, though given his current financial situation, collection will be difficult." Maya nodded slowly. She had expected this. "And the criminal charges?" Daniel opened the folder. "David Chen has been convicted of identity fraud and loan fraud. He's been sentenced to 18 months in prison with 3 years probation after. He'll also be required to complete financial counseling and anger management." "And Sterling?" her father asked. Daniel's expression grew more satisfied. "Richard Sterling is facing multiple charges: securities fraud, tax evasion, manipulation of company funds. The evidence we provided opened up a full investigation. He's looking at 5 to 7 years minimum. His companies are being dissolved, his assets frozen." Maya felt a strange mix of emotions. Not happiness, not revenge, just closure. "And Victoria Moore?" she asked quietly. "She's cooperating with investigators in exchange for immunity. Turns out she kept records of everything Sterling did. She was protecting herself all along." Maya shook her head slowly. Even Victoria had been playing her own game. Daniel pulled out one more document. "There's something else. David has requested to see you. Just once. He's written you a letter." He handed her an envelope. Her name written in David's familiar handwriting. Maya stared at it for a long moment, then handed it back. "No, I don't need to read it. Whatever he wants to say doesn't change anything." Daniel nodded with respect. "Understood. And finally, there's the matter of your trust fund. Since you're no longer bound by the conditions you set, you have full access to your inheritance again." Maya looked at her parents. Her father spoke gently. "It's yours, Maya. It always was. Use it however you want, or don't use it at all. The choice is yours." For the first time, Maya realized that having money didn't mean she had to lose herself. She could have both: security and authenticity, wealth and real love. "I want to start a foundation," she said suddenly. The idea had been growing in her mind for weeks. "For pregnant women in crisis, women who are alone, who have no support, who are being abused or abandoned." Her mother's face lit up. "Maya, that's beautiful." "I want to call it Safe Haven. We'll provide housing, food, medical care, legal support, counseling, everything I needed when I had nothing." Daniel smiled. "I can help you set that up." Robert stepped forward and hugged his daughter. "We're proud of you. So proud."
Miles away, in a small prison cell, David Chen sat on a hard bed. His orange jumpsuit hung loose on his frame. He had lost weight, lost sleep, lost everything. The cell was nothing like the luxury lounges he had tried so hard to enter, nothing like Sterling's world. It was cold, gray, lonely, just like he had made Maya feel. Every night he replayed his choices, the moment he took off his wedding ring, the moment he walked out with his suitcase, the moment he chose ambition over the woman who had loved him. He had received a letter from his own lawyer. Maya had refused to read his letter. She had moved on. She was thriving, building something meaningful with her life. And he was here, alone, exactly as he deserved. A guard walked by. "Chen, you have a visitor." David looked up surprised. No one had visited him in months.
His old co-workers had forgotten him. Sterling certainly wouldn't come. Victoria had disappeared. He walked to the visiting room and froze. Mrs. Rodriguez, his former neighbor, the elderly woman who had helped Maya when he had abandoned her. She sat behind the glass partition with a stern expression. David picked up the phone. "Mrs. Rodriguez, she said sharply, "I'm not here for you. I'm here to tell you something Maya is too kind to say herself." David swallowed hard. "That girl loved you with everything she had. She gave up a fortune for you. She chose poverty with you over wealth without you, and you threw it away for fake people and fake promises." Tears ran down David's face. I know I destroyed everything. I hate myself for it." Mrs. Rodriguez's expression didn't soften. "Hating yourself is easy. Living with what you've done is hard. Maya is raising your son to be a good man, a man nothing like you. She's building a foundation to help women like her, women you left to suffer. I want to change. I want to be better. When I get out, I want to—" "No," Mrs. Rodriguez interrupted. "You don't get to plan a future with them. You lost that right. The best thing you can do now is stay away. Let them heal. Let them be happy without you." The words cut deep, but they were true. Use your time here to actually become a better person, not for Maya, not for your son, but because you owe it to yourself to stop being the man who destroyed his own family. She stood up. "Goodbye, David. I won't be coming back." She hung up the phone and walked away. David sat alone in the visiting room, the phone still in his hand, tears streaming down his face. For the first time, he truly understood. He had lost the most precious thing in the world, and there was no getting it back.
1 year after the trial, the Safe Haven Foundation held its grand opening. The building was beautiful but warm, not cold luxury, but comfortable safety. Maya stood at the entrance, holding Ethan's hand. He was walking now, taking confident little steps. Her parents stood beside her. Her mother had become co-director of the foundation. Her father had used his business connections to secure funding in partnerships. A crowd had gathered, press, donors, and most importantly, the first group of women who would be helped by Safe Haven. Pregnant women, single mothers, women escaping abuse, women who needed a second chance. Maya stepped up to the microphone. She had prepared a speech, but looking at the faces in the crowd, she decided to speak from her heart instead. "A year ago, I was lying on a kitchen floor, starving and alone while 9 months pregnant. I thought I had no one. I thought I had made the biggest mistake of my life by walking away from my family's wealth." The crowd was silent, listening. But I learned something important. Having nothing showed me what really matters, and having everything again taught me what to do with it. She looked at the women waiting to enter Safe Haven. "You are not alone anymore. You are not worthless. You are not forgotten. You are strong. You are survivors, and you deserve dignity, safety, and support." Applause filled the air. Ethan tugged on her dress. Maya picked him up and held him close. "This foundation exists because of every woman who has ever been left behind, every mother who fought to protect her child, every person who refused to give up even when everything seemed hopeless." She paused, emotion catching in her throat. "We rise by lifting others, and today we rise together." The crowd erupted in cheers. As the ribbon was cut and the doors opened, Maya felt something she hadn't felt in a long time. Not just happiness, not just peace, but purpose. Her mother hugged her tightly. "Your father and I are so proud of who you've become." Maya smiled. "I'm proud of who we've all become." That evening,
Maya sat in the nursery, rocking Ethan to sleep. The moonlight streamed through the window. The room was quiet, except for her son's gentle breathing. She thought about David, not with anger anymore, not even with sadness, just with understanding. He had taught her valuable lessons about her own strength, about the importance of knowing your worth, about never settling for less than you deserve. She had once believed love meant sacrifice, and it did, but not the kind of sacrifice where you lose yourself. Real love meant sacrifice that builds both people up, not tears one person down. She whispered to her sleeping son, "I'm going to teach you to be strong and kind, ambitious and honest, to chase your dreams, but never at the cost of someone else's heart." Ethan stirred slightly, his small hand gripping her finger. "You'll know what real love looks like, because you'll see it every day, in how your grandparents treat me, in how I treat you, in how we treat everyone who comes to Safe Haven." She kissed his forehead gently. "And one day, when you're old enough, I'll tell you your father's story, not to make you hate him, but to teach you the most important lesson of all." She paused, looking at the stars outside the window. That success without integrity is just failure in disguise. That status without character is worthless, and that the people who truly love you will never ask you to become someone you're not. Maya stood up carefully and placed Ethan in his crib. She covered him with a soft blanket and watched him sleep for a moment longer. Then she walked to her own room, not the cramped apartment she had lived in with David, not the cold bedroom of her lonely childhood, but a space that felt like home, because it was filled with people who truly loved her. Maya looked at her reflection in the mirror. She saw a woman who had been broken, who had been abandoned, who had been left to starve. But she also saw a woman who had risen, who had reclaimed her power, who had turned her pain into purpose. Maya smiled at her reflection. The girl who had run away from wealth had become a woman who knew how to use it wisely. The wife who had been abandoned had become a mother who would never abandon. The woman who had almost lost everything had found something more valuable than money or status or approval. She had found herself. The Safe Haven Foundation had now had 5 locations across the country. Hundreds of women had been helped. Dozens of babies had been born safely under their care. Lives had been changed. Maya stood on stage at a charity gala, receiving an award for humanitarian work. She wore an elegant dress, not to impress anyone, but because she had learned she could be both powerful and kind, wealthy and humble, successful and authentic. Ethan sat in the front row with his grandparents, 3 years old now, happy, loved, secure. As Maya gave her acceptance speech, she noticed a figure standing at the back of the hall, far from everyone else, watching. David. He had been released from prison 6 months ago. He looked different, thinner, older, humbled. Their eyes met for just a second. Maya saw regret there, deep, permanent regret. She didn't look away with anger. She simply nodded once, acknowledging his presence, acknowledging that he existed, but nothing more. Then she turned back to her speech, to her life, to her future. Because some doors, once closed, should stay closed, not out of bitterness, but out of wisdom. David watched for another moment, then quietly left the hall. He had come not to ask for forgiveness, not to try to win her back, but simply to see that she was okay, to see that her son was okay. And now he knew they were more than okay. They were thriving. He walked out into the night, knowing he would never return. This was her world now, and he had no place in it. That was the final price of his choices. Not prison, not poverty, but permanent distance from the only people who had ever truly mattered. Back in the hall, Maya finished her speech with words that resonated through the crowd. To anyone watching who feels trapped, who feels alone, who feels like they made the wrong choice in love or life, remember this: your past does not define your future. Your mistakes do not determine your worth. And the people who leave you often make room for the people who will truly appreciate you. She looked directly at the camera broadcasting the event. You are stronger than you know. You are more valuable than anyone who made you feel small. And your story is not over. This is just the beginning of your comeback. The audience rose in a standing ovation. Maya smiled, picked up her award, and walked off stage, not as the girl who had been abandoned, but as the woman who had risen. And somewhere, in living rooms and small apartments and hospital beds across the country, women who needed to hear those words felt a spark of hope ignite in their hearts. Because Maya's story wasn't just hers, it was theirs too. And if she could rise from a kitchen floor where she almost died, starving and alone, to a stage where she was celebrated and honored, then so could they.
Dear viewers, thank you for staying until the very end of Maya's journey. Her story teaches us that real wealth isn't measured in money, but in dignity, strength, and the courage to walk away from anything that diminishes your worth. If this story touched your heart, please subscribe and share it with someone who needs to hear it. Comment below with the lesson that resonated with you most. And remember, your comeback is always possible. See you in the next story. Stay strong, stay worthy, stay you.